Welcome to the Innovative Leader Podcast, featuring Christy Geiger, Executive Coach with Synergy Strategies, and David Phillips, Professor, Consultant, and Coach. All right, so welcome back to the Innovative Leader Podcast. And so today we're going to finish up this three-part series on the Healthy Mind Platter. And so just as a quick recap, sorry, I have it listed on my phone here. We talked about focus time. We've talked about play time. We've talked about connecting time. We've talked about physical time. We've talked about sleep time. And today we're going to talk about the last two, time in and downtime. And so time in is when we quietly reflect internally, focusing on sensations and images and feelings and thoughts. So that's kind of an internal mindfulness to help better integrate in the brain. And then downtime is just complete non-focused. You could be taking a walk, taking a shower, working in the yard. We all need, it's not playtime, it is downtime when you're just letting your brain go crazy, right? So let's talk about those, Christy. Let's talk about time in first. So give me your thoughts on the time in piece.
Yeah, so to me, the time in that is interesting is that time in is really our learning time. And I think it's interesting. A lot of times this concept doesn't necessarily make this platter, so to speak. It's why I really like the Healthy Mind Platter, because it brings in the neuroscience aspect of what helps our brain and our bodies operate at their best. And a lot of times we do talk about focus time, which is when are we focusing on something? So I think sometimes we might try to tuck this underneath there. Oh, there's a book we're reading and we want to learn about that. Or, right. Oh, we need to do X, Y, Z. So we'll kind of tuck it into focus time. But really, this concept of time in is where we have to be mindful to reflect on what is going on. And especially the faster the world goes and the more busy things go, the more disruptions and distractions and things we have going on, when we are not present with our thoughts, we end up just kind of, if you've ever felt like life on the hamster wheel or life on the treadmill, where it's one thing after another and you're just kind of this hamster going and you can't really get out of this reactionary cycle. And it's just, you want to respond, but you can't. It's react.
Yep.
Part of this is really backing up. And so time in sometimes can be that, first of all, the meditation time or that mindfulness time in order to get centered. Inner Balance is an app that I really like about heart and mind congruence. Or there's, the 10% Happier, right. Shine, Abide is a Christian one that I like to use. So it's about getting yourself centered and focused first, because your mind is all over the place, especially as leaders. We have so many things that we're thinking about. And often leaders aren't just leading their business, but often they're involved in their associations and in their industries, in the community, and they're leading in other ways too. And so it's not so simple that we just have this one focus. Most leaders are not like that. There's many things they're focusing on.
Right.
And so time in allows us to get focused. And then a huge tool that often is used is journaling.
Yep.
And I know that I have not always been great at journaling. I have a lot of books that I've started, written, 3 pages, and then you got rid of it. And I think in our era, when we were younger, they were diaries.
Yep.
And what are you supposed to write in a diary? And to me, it reminds me of when blog posts first started. What are you supposed to put in a blog post? Is it just this random musing about what you ate today, or what's the deal? But really, time in is reflecting, and you can use questions to help yourself reflect. What am I learning right now?
Right.
What's challenging me right now? What am I noticing about my mood, my energy, my leadership? Where are we headed? What am I doing? So this time in is getting yourself centered and then starting to process, what am I thinking about? Where am I at? What do you notice when you think about time in? Like, what does that mean to you?
Yeah. So for me, it's, it goes back to I think I had talked about this in another podcast. It goes back to my thinking chair. So it's that chair where I just sit and just reflect on the day, or reflect on the moment, or reflect on the situation, depending on kind of what's going on and what time of the day it is. So yeah, you need to do that. And then a lot of times I'll journal as well. Sometimes I start the journal, start it in the morning, and kind of reflect back over the day. This is what I learned the previous day. Sometimes I do it at night, and I think about over what I have learned over that last, the last part of the day. But I think that's incredibly important. Otherwise, we don't learn. I think it's as much a learning time as anything, because if you never stop to ponder or to process what's happened and begin to think, why did this happen? And not just the kind of what appears to be the cause of it, because often the cause of something negative that's happened during the day is there's a lot of underlying things that are not as cognizant or as prevalent as present in the moment when you're working through them. But you have to stop and think, what have I learned today? What did I learn out of this situation? What can I do to make that situation better in the future? How can I diagnose this scenario better? So I think time in really is that learning time where we're able to sit and focus and concentrate on just what has happened and how we can handle that situation better, how we can address it, how we can deal with it better, and how we can deal with others better as well.
Mm-hmm. That reminds me, in the book, Positive Intelligence, Shirzad Shamin talks about our saboteurs and our sage. And a lot of times when we are trying to reprogram, so let's say you're journaling at the end of the day and you're super frustrated at something that happened during the day, and you reflect on, how did I handle that, and how did somebody else handle that? And you may, maybe 90% is theirs, but as leaders, we always go, what 10% at least is mine? That there's always at least 10% that's ours. So we look and we go, okay, what 10% of that is mine? And then in order for us to actually build neural pathways in our brain, so it's possible that when we get frustrated with our team or we get overwhelmed or whatever, we go down the same neural pathway that we've actually been conditioned to go down, because of our experiences, because of our personality, our profile, our style. So we've gone down this neural pathway that now has this really thick sheath around. That's the way we respond. And when we are upgrading our skill set as a leader and desiring to respond to something in a more sage way, in a more mindful way, in a more emotionally intelligent way,
Yep.
A lot of times we have to actually rewrite that. And what you're talking about with doing that in the journal, where you're processing, okay, this is what happened, this is how I responded, actually writing the new sage response. If this happened again, this is how I'd like to handle it. Or I think if I had handled it this way, it would have been better. You're actually strengthening that other, like physically in your brain. This isn't just mumbo jumbo psychology.
Right. You're
This is
reprogramming
neuroscience.
everything.
Yeah, you are reprogramming that neural pathway. So then the next time it happened, you may still short circuit and go that other way, because that other way is really trenched. But the more you reprogram, the more you're going to head that direction, which is why even time in can be at the top of your day as well.
Right.
Where at the top of the day, you're thinking about, how do I want to lead today? How do I want to show up today? What's important in the leadership strengths and skills and posture that I desire to show up with? And as you're doing that, you're building that pathway too. So then when that obstacle comes, you'll take the sage pathway versus the old pathway. But all of that comes through time in.
Right. Absolutely. So let's talk about downtime. How do you experience downtime? This is, we like to, this is not playtime. This is not, I'm going to sit and think about time. This is, I'm not going to think about anything time and just focus, just be. But how do you handle, or how do you execute on that downtime?
When I think about downtime, I think about, where is it that I have the most ahas? Where is it that when I am just kind of processing my day, not intentional journaling. That's in time, or time in that we were just talking about. But where do I have ahas where all of a sudden I'm like, oh my goodness, I have to write that down. Oh wait, this has to do with this, and this is why that happened. Whatever. Like where do I have those insights? Where does my brain make those magical connections of a new insight? Where does that happen? It is in downtime. So for me, a place where those insights more frequently happen is in the shower. I love to take a hot shower. I love to take a hot bath, but usually it's in the shower because I just find them super relaxing.
Sure.
And so when I'm in the middle of a hot shower, to me, it is likely to have insights. I'm thinking about the audiobook that I was just listening to. I'm thinking about what I was talking to clients about that day. I'm thinking about what's going on and different energies and messages that are being sent. And then all of a sudden, my brain creates the insight. And the insight in neuroscience is really where our learning comes from. Our insights are new thoughts and ideas that we have that help us to move forward in greater understanding of ourselves and others so that we can operate better in the world. And if we just keep plowing through life, we miss out on the insights. And the insights are actually kind of that magic that help us to upgrade and to understand and to connect the dots and to see the picture. So to me, downtime can be anything from going on a walk, whatever. A lot of times on a walk, I'm talking to my husband, I'm talking to my kids.
Yeah.
So to me, it's like the shower is probably one of the few places where I'm by myself and nobody is bothering me, and I can really just marinate in my thoughts. How about for you?
Yeah. So mine is working in the yard. So whether I'm mowing or pulling weeds or trimming bushes or whatever it is, it's a place where I just let my mind kind of go and just think about whatever pops in my head. And sometimes I come up with great solutions for things. Sometimes I have those aha moments. It's just kind of my go-to. That and a walk are my go-to places. So I really like them. We need that. Downtime in some cases can be combined with other times. I think physical time like exercise and things like that. You can kind of do some of those things together. But yeah, it's it's amazing what your brain can do when it's not thinking about anything, because actually it's thinking about everything.
Right. Well, and I think, oh, sorry, go ahead.
No, I was just going to say, it's just not in the front of your brain. If you're not consciously thinking about it, your brain is active in the background, and you don't even know it. And I think it's the beauty of the brain, but it's the beauty of being intentional about not thinking about anything.
Agree. It almost reminds me of when you defrag your computer. When you're trying to do that and you're trying to work on something at the same time, your document or whatever is slow and you're like, and then you'll end up turning the defrag off because you just can't do both at the same time.
Right.
To me, in a way, it's kind of a defrag opportunity for your brain. And so exercise, I agree. Some people can exercise and have it downtime. I think since I usually listen to Blinkist or an Audible or whatever, I have my document up and I'm working on something. So it doesn't work. Another one that I thought of though, that was interesting the other day is really here in Texas, you should water your plants in the morning and at night. And I usually water them in the middle of the afternoon when they're like shriveled up and they're hot and dehydrated, and I'm like, oh man, that plant looks horrible, and then I water it, and I'm like this quick waterer. But then really when you really should be watering them is the morning. So in order to do that, I need extra time in order to like stand there with your cup of coffee and water your plant. A client was actually telling me that she loves to do that, and it's part of her downtime where she's standing there with her cup of coffee watering her plants. She's not on her phone, she's not doing other things, she's just sitting there watering her plant. But it really allows for that defragging and that thought to be happening because it is legitimate downtime. Right. There is nothing else going on. And that's why I think sometimes we try to merge downtime and playtime at times, but you really can't merge them because if you're playing, you've got a document open, you're doing something else, you've got another agenda, and downtime is where you are surely doing nothing else but just resting that brain, letting your computer defrag.
Yep, absolutely. Well, it's starting to get toward the end of our time today, so let's kind of loop back and recap a little bit. So time in time is really important. It's kind of a reflection time. It's a learning time. And then downtime is that time where you're really doing nothing and just kind of letting your brain free flow and freestyle. And when you do that, it allows you to come up potentially with solutions or just to reset. It's almost like rebooting your computer. And sometimes, at least it feels that way. Just kind of let everything go and flush out and have a kind of a clear thoughts. And so when we think about those two things, what can we encourage our listeners to do? How do we set those times aside? How do we get to those points?
Mm-hmm. To me, this really goes back to another book that I love is The Miracle Morning by Hal Elrod. And he talks about the miracle morning is really these 5 habits about visualization, journaling, exercise, and whatnot. It combines many of these concepts here in that. So it's a great book to grab and to read and to check out. But really it's about scheduling this. So when is my downtime? Is that in the morning when I'm watering plants and standing there? By the time I water on my plants, I've had 10 minutes of downtime. And my time in is that I journal 10 minutes in the morning and 10 minutes at night. Where is that time? And the reason we had said last week about how the sleep time and physical time and connecting time are more obvious because we're hounded about that. When are you working out? In order to get rid of your stress and detoxify, you need to be working out. How's your sleep? We talk about those things. Nobody is really hounding for downtime and in time. We talk about playtime and how important it is to recreate and to play. But these 2 categories are the 2 that, in my opinion, build that gray matter in your brain, in your frontal lobe, that help you to respond better. It helps you to be more emotionally intelligent, more responsive rather than reactive. So the less gray matter we have in our brain, the more likely we are to react to something, the more we can get hijacked, the more we can move to that limbic mode, versus the stronger our mind is, which really is growing those neural pathways in our frontal lobe. And Absolutely. So that gray matter is these practices, and they're daily practices. So they don't come because you had extra time. They don't come because you hope that they would happen. They come because you created a specific time and routine for them to happen. And in my opinion, that's the only way they'll happen. Otherwise, they quickly get squeezed out.
Yeah, they just become intermittent, and so you're unable to really process the things that have happened during the day to learn and understand. So you do have to be intentional about them. I think that's a huge thing. Well, all right. Well, we'll finish up there. We're glad you listened today. Make sure you check us out at theinnovativeleader.co. Check us out at anywhere you get your podcasts, Apple Music, Google Play. We're on video, YouTube as well. So we look forward to coming to talking with you again next week, and hope you have a great week. Thanks, Christy. Go ahead.
Sorry, David, real quick, right? Since this is the end of this series too, just with that Healthy Mind Platter, it's a great opportunity to go back over those 7 areas. And the Healthy Mind Platter isn't about perfection in any one area,
right?
But it's recognizing, do I have a little bit of all of this in here? And where am I thriving and where do I have a deficit? And so the Healthy Mind Platter is recognizing I need my peas, my carrots, my meat, and my starch. Like I need a little bit of all of it. And so
Absolutely.
Maybe in the context of the whole of this series is just go back and look at those 7 and do a little assessment to understand where am I strong and where do I have a little bit of a gap, and then pick one and start working with that first. Don't try to do everything at once, just baby steps, start with one.
Yeah, it's hard you won't be able to do all of them at once. You're trying to implement it. Start with one and move forward down the line. All right. Well, have a great week, and we'll talk to you again soon.
Okay, thanks.
Take care.
Thanks,
All right.
David. Thanks for listening.
Thanks. Bye.